On 5 News, Boris Johnson calls for protests against Russia over its bombing of Aleppo. The Foreign Secretary says hundreds of people, many of them children, have been killed since a ceasefire collapsed. And he accuses the Russian and Syrian governments of war crimes, vowing to bring the perpetrators to justice. Also, Samsung's stark warning: stop using our brand new phone. It halts production of its Galaxy Note 7 permanently, following reports they keep catching fire. The mother of a murdered woman says killers who don't reveal where the body is should be refused parole. We test the latest driverless cars, but would you be happy to use one? And
Sir Roderick Stewart for services to music and to charity.
tonight's the night Rod Stewart gets a knighthood and thanks his fans.
The British public gave this to me. This was the British public, so I thank them very much.
Hello and welcome to 5 News. I'm Sian Williams. The Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson has called for demonstrations outside the Russian embassy in London in protest at its bombing of the Syrian city of Aleppo. Speaking to the Commons this afternoon during an emergency debate on the worsening crisis there, he blamed Russia for its role in the relentless atrocities against civilians, saying if the attacks continued, it risked becoming a pariah state. Our political editor Andy Bell was at Westminster to watch the debate. Just a warning, his report begins with images of children that you might find distressing.
Another victim of a bombing raid in eastern Aleppo, a place where the Syrian government, backed by Russia, has been trying to drive out rebels they call terrorists. Today, in a special debate in Parliament, the Foreign Secretary said those responsible were committing war crimes.
Hospitals have been targeted with such frequency and precision that it is difficult to avoid the conclusion that this must be deliberate policy. The House will know that intentionally attacking a hospital amounts to a war crime.
Those who caused this destruction in Aleppo could be taken to the International Criminal Court, the Foreign Secretary said. And he also called for demonstrations outside the Russian embassy in London. 5 News contacted one resident of Aleppo for his reaction.
We're losing our friends, our family members, our beloved ones on a daily basis. What more than that how far can reach more than that to be called emergency?
The British are also saying the Russians destroyed this aid convoy last month, effectively shattering diplomacy. The man who brought about today's emergency debate said it was now time to end the deadly standoff.
We have a choice. We can turn away from the misery and suffering of children and humanity in Aleppo. We can once again, on our watch, appease today's international lawbreaker, Russia, and continue to find eloquent excuses for inaction. Or we can be seen to take a lead.
But for now, it is almost impossible to see what that lead could be, what could bring about an end to this suffering. Parliament has marked Syria's agony today, but it has not produced any solutions.
Andy, there were very strong words in Parliament from the Foreign Secretary today. The question is, how is Russia responding to them?
Well, the Russian embassy, in fact, has posted a tweet where they say their record in Syria is thousands of villages freed, thousands of tons of humanitarian aid delivered, and they say in a sort of challenge to Britain, what have you achieved so far? So that gives you the kind of idea of how they're feeling about what they've heard from the Foreign Secretary this afternoon. I think they're also probably pretty fed up with the idea that Boris Johnson has called for demonstrations outside the embassy. It's certainly not the sort of thing that governments are supposed to do when it comes to one another's embassies. But I think the strong words we've heard today, and they have been pretty strong, I think in a way that reflects the kind of frustration and impotence, if you like, that British MPs are feeling, because they know that even if they wanted to, whether militarily or diplomatically, Britain is not in a position to force some kind of resolution to this crisis, that we are essentially having to wait for the United States to take a lead, and it's unlikely that lead will come before America has a new president.
Andy, thank you. Samsung has permanently stopped production of its Galaxy Note 7 smartphone because they kept catching fire. Last month, the company recalled millions of devices after complaints of exploding batteries and, as we told you last night, even the replacements were faulty. Now, owners are being told to turn their phones off. Simon Vigar reports now on a PR disaster for a global phone giant.
Too hot to handle. This footage apparently shows a Samsung Galaxy Note 7 on fire in South Korea. We expect a great deal from our mobile phones. What we do not expect is this. They're not available in Europe yet, but it's not gone down very well in the United States.
It was electronic smoke. It was that brown, green, gray, real ugly stuff, but it was pretty thick coming out of the device.
It burnt like you were getting burned from like hot metal or something.
Look over and my phone's in flames, you know, it's just spewing smoke.
The crisis engulfing Samsung has now forced it to permanently stop production, sales and exchanges of the Galaxy Note 7. At lunchtime, it was still on display at its flagship store in the UK, price tag for pre-orders £699. Customers weren't too keen though.
It's nice to hold, nice to feel just done that, but I don't know if I fancy exploding in my pocket.
No, I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't take it. I don't want to have a problem in the plane or...
The new Note 7 is exploding. This may not be a Note 7, but obviously I'm worried.
People lose confidence in the company. They'll switch to like the Google Pixel, I think, which has just come out.
Introducing the all-new Samsung Galaxy Note 7.
Official advice to owners is to not even turn it on. The South Korean company tried to get the jump on the iPhone 7, but it's backfired big time.
Exploding batteries are a really key safety problem, and it's a terrible impact on their brand because it means people won't be trusting their devices, and that's disastrous in the run-up to Christmas.
Smartphones need a lot of energy, but most consumers want slimmer phones, and that, say the experts, may have caused the problem.
They want the phones to be very sleek, very thin, and of course consequentially the batteries will be thinner and thinner, and that comes at the expense of the mechanical properties of the batteries.
After its denials and then reassurances, this is a humiliating climb down for Samsung, and the reputational damage may take years to repair. Simon Vigar, 5 News.
The fatal stabbing of a teenager at a school in Aberdeen might have been avoided if teachers had been told a pupil carried weapons, the report has found. 16-year-old Bailey Gwynn was stabbed by another student during a fight at the Cults Academy last October. The report said the Scottish Government should consider giving teachers more powers to search pupils. 3 days of strikes on southern trains are underway in a dispute over the role of its guards. The industrial action went ahead despite the RMT union advising its members to sign the new contracts. Southern says it'll run nearly 2/3 of its normal timetable. Anyone who's planning to go abroad this half-term will know that their pound won't go as far as this time last year. The weakness of sterling is being put down to uncertainty over Brexit, but although that may be bad news for travellers, it's good news for some British businesses. And today, that meant a boost to the top 100 UK companies, with the FTSE hitting a record high. Charlotte Grant joins us from the city now. Charlotte, what do those figures about the economy mean?
Well, for analysts in this city, the FTSE 100 is one of the main indicators of the health of our economy, and it was earlier today that it broke through its previous record. So should we see this as a sign of strength? Well, analysts have put it down to the weak pound. So many of the big companies on the FTSE 100 make much of their money abroad. So firms with big foreign business like Burberry, they're some of the big winners out of today. As for the weak pound, it continues to struggle, which will only add to fears over how the economy will cope post-Brexit. Now, a weak pound is good news if businesses are selling their exports abroad, but it's bad news if you're going on holiday, as you will get less for your money.
Charlotte, thank you. MPs have been urged to change the law so that killers who don't reveal the whereabouts of their victims' remains are refused parole. It comes after more than 300,000 people signed a petition for Helen's Law. That's named after murder victim Helen McCourt. Her killer was convicted after overwhelming DNA evidence, but never admitted what he did or where he left her body. Layla Hayes has been speaking to Helen's mum about her enduring agony.
It's now almost 30 years since Helen McCourt was abducted and killed, but her body has never been found. Helen's mother believes killers should be denied parole unless they say where they've hidden their victims' bodies. She says not knowing has been torture.
It's been like hell, you know, an absolute nightmare. It still upsets me. And I just can't believe that any government would condone a law that allows a killer to keep his secret and then be released from prison without releasing the victim's family's pain.
Ian Sims was convicted of Helen's murder in 1988 by overwhelming DNA evidence, but has never admitted his crime or revealed where her body is hidden. Today, her mother Mairead came to the House of Commons along with other grieving families to demand a change in the law, supported by her local MP.
To have a child murdered is unspeakable, but then to not be able to give, as Mary wishes to do, her beloved daughter a final resting place and a burial just is beyond imagination or any words, and she has lived that for nearly 3 decades.
A petition calling for the law to be changed has now attracted more than 300,000 signatures.
If this doesn't become law, then I think all those families will be getting together to sue the government for torturing us unnecessarily. All it needs is no body, no parole.
Mairead says she just wants closure.
We will never, ever forget Helen, and she deserves a proper burial.
Helen's killer could soon be released from jail. Her mother says until he reveals where her body is hidden, she'll fight to make sure that doesn't happen. Layla Hayes, 5 News.
Still to come on the programme. Our childhood obesity crisis, why too many pupils are beginning secondary school overweight.
I'm in a driverless car as it hits Britain streets for the first time, but don't worry, we've got Tom on safety here as well with me. But no hands. What could possibly go wrong?
Oh, Maggie, I could never try.
And we speak to Sir Rod Stewart as he gets his knighthood for services to charity and music. All that and more after the break. Welcome back. You're watching 5 News. 1/3 of children who start secondary school in England are obese or overweight. That's despite numerous campaigns from the government and celebrity chefs. Our health correspondent Catherine Jones has been finding out why.
Chopping, weighing, combining nutritious ingredients. These 12 and 13-year-olds in East London are learning skills for a lifetime of healthy eating. It's a challenge for their teacher. Most of his pupils start secondary school barely knowing the basics.
It's getting better with primary schools now addressing the issue to a certain extent, but there's still a big gap between what they should know and what they actually know.
1/3 of kids in England start school at 11 overweight or obese, a figure that hasn't improved for the last decade. Among children aged 8 to 15 who are overweight or obese, 1/4 don't realise it, and 1/4 of parents with overweight kids don't realise it either.
There's a change in perception. Young people aren't recognising their weight particularly well, and their parents aren't either. That's something we're seeing across all wealthy countries and is actually part of just the normalisation of this. It's something we really need to combat if we're to make a difference.
Amber is a healthy weight now, but aged 11 she was 12 stone and by early adulthood more than double that. Yet Amber says she genuinely didn't see herself as overweight until she was about 17.
When you're young, you kind of think it might fall off you. It could be childhood weight, it could be puppy fat, all that kind of thing, and you just presume you're going to grow out of it. So if someone, wants to give their opinion on Amber, you're a bit big, or, do you want to try and lose weight? I wasn't interested.
There are also the many other factors, like the availability of cheap fast food, that lead kids to make unhealthy choices.
A child can leave our school and with £1.50 buy 1,000 calories worth of snack food. I'm trying to discourage them from eating in those shops, but it's very, very difficult.
The government's goal is to significantly reduce childhood obesity in the next 10 years. However, its efforts over the last decade haven't had any noticeable impact yet. Catherine Jones, 5 News.
Now, how do you fancy sitting in the driver's seat of a car and getting to your destination without even touching the steering wheel or changing gear? Today, a driverless car controlled by sensors and an internal computer was tested by members of the public for the first time here in the UK. Minnie Stevenson went to try one out.
A world where driverless cars run by robots roam. The stuff of sci-fi films, surely. Well, it turns out stranger things have happened. Today, for the first time, driverless cars are being tested on Britain's roads. The good news is the two-seater is only going 15 miles per hour. The bad news is I've offered myself up as a human guinea pig and I'm going in. Let's go.
All right.
Let's do it. We're just going down the hill here. Now, this is one of the first times a driverless car has hit Britain's streets. So naturally, I'm a little bit nervous, but it's fine because we've got Tom on safety here, but no hands. What could possibly go wrong? Ah! That was a bit jumpy. When the robots are in a bad mood, though, you never know what's going to happen, right? So you might ask, how does it actually work? Well, thankfully, we've drafted in academics at Oxford University who've been developing the technology for the last 18 months. My mind's slightly blown. How does it exactly work? Because there's not a human being in it.
Right, so in the back of the vehicle, there's a computer. And that computer is running the software that makes the thing autonomous. Connected to that computer are some types of sensors. So we can see a camera here, there are 3 lenses, and there's a laser here. And these sensors are used to peer out at the world and solve where am I, what's around me, and what should I do?
Of course, Britain is not the first place to show off the future. Just last month, cab company Uber launched their first driverless car service in the States. But with the UK government investing £20 million in the technology, it's thought driverless cars could be on the market here in a decade's time. So could you see yourself in one? Take a good look. That is a driverless car. What do you think?
Pretty impressive.
Yeah?
We know it's coming up behind you though.
Can you see yourself in that car?
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah.
Would you feel safe?
Not really, no.
15 miles an hour.
Is that it?
You could be a boy, I'm afraid that's it. You could be a boy racer, boy medium slow racer, but...
Yeah. It's not very good on the roads though, is it? It's just going 50 miles per hour.
Would you be a bit nervous to get into a car without a driver though? Yes.
Well, yes, it would be a bit dodgy to start with.
It seems driverless cars are no longer a futuristic fantasy. They could be coming to a street near you. Minnie Stevenson, 5 News.
The Duchess of Cambridge embarked on her first official solo mission abroad today. Kate has met the Dutch King at his official residence near The Hague in the Netherlands. It's expected she will use her position to discuss trade deals for Britain following Brexit. Meanwhile, Kate's husband, Prince William, was busy back home handing out honours at Buckingham Palace. One went to the singer Rod Stewart, given a knighthood for services to music and charity. He told Jessica Omery he's got no intention of slowing down.
After 6 decades of bringing music to our ears, Rod Stewart, Sir Rod Stewart, is getting a knighthood.
Sir Roderick Stewart for services to music and to charity.
So handbags and glad rags at the ready. With his wife Penny and boys Alistair and Aidan at his side, he's ready to celebrate.
Tremendous. I think I wish my mum and dad could have been here to see this wonderful event, but I'm sure they're looking down.
It looks great, you're wearing it. Are you going to ever take it off?
No, because look at the colours go so nicely.
Ever seen a blind man cross the road, trying to reach the other side?
His gravelly voice has helped sell more than 100 million records. From this to this.
I am sailing stormy waters.
But it hasn't always been straightforward. In 2001, Sir Rod was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, and at one point he feared he'd never sing again. Thankfully, he recovered. His famous voice just slightly lower. He's campaigned for awareness ever since.
It's wonderful to be recognised for our charitable efforts. I think we could do a lot more, and we intend to do a lot more and get these boys involved.
For now, his boys are getting involved in the posing. And it looks like 5-year-old Aidan already knows how to work a room.
We're all very proud of Dad.
Are you very proud?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that looks good on your daddy? Yeah. Yeah. And you said recently, actually, that retirement isn't in your vocabulary.
Can't afford to.
Why not?
I enjoy it so much. I mean, it's written all over my face when I'm on the stage. I love the British fans, and incidentally, you know, the British public gave this to me. This was the British public, so I thank them very much.
And how could I put it better than Sir Rod himself? Jessica Omery, 5 News.
Rise, Sir Rod. Before we go, Julian's joined us to tell us what's coming up on 5 News tonight. What have we got, Julian?
He wears it well, doesn't he? I'll be joined by Dr. Ranj Singh to talk more about why so many children are still overweight. And there's been an increase in incidents of pranksters dressed as clowns trying to scare people. As police warn them they could be arrested, we'll be discussing what has sparked this craze.
Look forward to that. Thank you very much. That is it for now, though. Sean Welby has the weather next. I'll see you again tomorrow at 5. Julian, of course, back at 6:30. Thanks for watching tonight. Bye for now.